Welcome to the Urban Cowgirl Show.
We're working with Eve today on someday trying to get her to do a half pass. Today we're just trying to figure out if she'll stay collected and supple. Then will she do a side pass for us? Will she do a leg yield for us, which is much easier than a half pass? And then we'll work our way up to the half pass. And JP Giacomini on YouTube has a 6-part series on how to teach the half pass. And we'll be following that. But for now, we're just going to document prerequisite skills. She's looking pretty soft. We've got the double reins on her. Can usually get that vertical flexion with just a bump of our yacht rope reins or pick up the double reins off of her neck. Those are Alraguzine double reins. They're a really good tool for having the extra leverage you need to get vertical flexion at the pole, but not have to worry about holding on to whatever tool you're using, as you can just let it drop on the neck. Now her head's up because she's not quite sure what Katie's asking for, but she's doing pretty good. She's doing a side pass with the fence in front of her. Her head's bouncing up from time to time, but she's crossing over front and back, and she's moving to the side. Not bad at all for our first documentation of Firecrest Easter Eve's prerequisite skills for ultimately learning and doing a half pass. Got to get those hips and the shoulders to move at the same rate and get the crossover. Not bad at all. Now let's try a leg yield, Katie. Now, let me just explain my understanding of a leg yield. You're going to arc Eve in one direction and ask her to move in the forward direction with crossover on her front and back. So you're kind of crossing over in the forward direction. Do you understand? Okay. It's the arcing that's different between the leg yield and the half pass. So you need to go forward, archer, like a C curve. Oh, look at that stress. She says, oh my goodness. Okay, she said, okay, now I'll put my head down. Now Eve is real sensitive to leg pressure. Not bad. Now she's getting it. Now she's getting it. Yeah. Good. But it's really amazing how much easier it is, you have to try it to know this, to arc them away from the direction you're moving than it is to arc them in the direction you're moving. The latter one is the half pass. Nice. She's gaping a little bit, swishing her tail a little bit, but Eve, if she understands what you want, will give you her all. She'll try her hardest to do what you want. This half pass series that we're going to be working on is part of our attempt to train in Western dressage, which is a new movement in the Western world that is working together with the classical dressage world. Nice. Let's do this just to finish up today. I'm sure we won't be able to do it, and Eve might get stressed, so we'll have to go back to something she can do so we don't quit on a stressed note. But can you arc her, C-curve her, and go in that direction? So if you're going to your left, she has to have her hips and her head arced to your left. And then the J.P. Giacomini series shows his classical dressage rider cueing incorrectly. And then he explains the best way to cue for that. Gaping, gaping, gaping. She's not sure what we want. She's kind of confused now. Okay, now you're kind of, now, no way, you see how upset she got, right? Oh. You were asking for the half pass, is that correct? Yeah, and she just got all confused.
Hey Sonya, I gotta take off. I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's go back to the leg yield. She was doing okay on that, and let's quit on that note. And then we'll be studying the J.P. Giacomini 6-part series on YouTube and come out here and try it with Eve and our other 2 Morgans. Yeah, there's leg yield she's getting. A little bit of stress, but looks pretty good, looks good. Stop on a good note when you're ready. Yeah, when you're arced away from the forward motion with the crossover, it's much easier. Okay, Katie. Good. Now that you're close to the camera, neither of us have mics on, tell me what you felt. What made you determine that, nope, we can't even begin to get the half pass yet?
She doesn't have nearly the prerequisite skills to get it. It's a very advanced movement in dressage, and she tries, but she doesn't, she's not there.
Okay, all right. But I'm confident we can get her there, are you?
I don't know. It's a really advanced movement that takes a lot of years for even dressage horses to get. So.
Yeah. Okay, assuming we have a lot of years on this earth, we'll keep trying, and we'll do it in tiny baby steps with J.P. Giacomini's video help. That's all for today. Sonya Sokolow, the Urban Cowgirl, with Firecrest Easter Eve. Sarah is riding Eve. This is our next session with Eve on the fundamentals of someday doing a half pass. Sarah and I watched part 2 of J.P. Giacomini's 6-part video about doing the half pass. I've watched it 2-3 times. Sarah and I watched it together just now. We're still rolling our eyes because we don't quite understand what he's saying, but we know what we're aiming for. We're aiming for a rounded back, which is, of course, essential. We're aiming for softness at break at the pole, and we're aiming for a C-curve at the same time that we maintain a rounded back. And why? Because in a half pass, you want to keep the back rounded, you want to keep softness in the pole, and you want the C-curve to be in the direction that you're half passing. And that's what's very, very complicated. Now we have Sarah's English saddle on Eve, and you can see we have the double reins, but Sarah hasn't had to pick them up at all. Eve knows what Sarah's asking for, so she's being real nice, real beautiful. But Sarah, here's what I'd like you to do. Come on over here to me in front of the camera, and you've got your mic on. Well, we're just going to present the concepts that we think we have in our mind about what are we going to do to actually implement the half pass. Let's say in the direction to the right.
Okay.
What are we going to do with your weight in your left stirrup and your your hand and your leg on the right side.
So we're bending her to the right.
Yes.
And get some lateral flexion.
But we want that C curve, so yeah, we got to keep right.
Like
okay.
this.
Yes.
I want to keep weight in both my seat bones, but step into my left foot and use pressure with my outside leg.
Not only pressure, but Giacomini, and we'll watch it again together before we try this on another session. He said that what you're actually doing with your left leg is you're picking up her ribs so that her back gets rounded. So he said you're actually under her ribs with your left leg. You're putting your weight in your left leg. And then we were wondering, did he mean that you're supposed to do leg pressure on the right? We think so, but very slight.
Yeah, he said to hold in right at the girth.
At the girth, okay. And we do want lateral flexion to the right, but we also want the hips to the right because it's supposed to be a C curve to the right.
He said it's the same curve you have on a circle.
Okay, all right. And then here's what's really tricky. Once you actually implement the half pass, you're doing all of that and you're getting the horse to cross over on the front and the back legs as they go in a straight path.
Yeah.
So you saw how we introduced Eve and Katie in our last session, trying to do just C curves and leg yields and so forth and side passes. And Eve was pretty good on the side pass, reasonable on the leg yield. But when we tried to get the half pass, which is C curve in the direction of the half pass, Eve got all discombobulated. Katie said, this is really an advanced movement in dressage, so we're not ready. So we're going to take this one baby step at a time. We're going to keep watching JP Giacomini and other YouTube videos up there and videos up there wherever to help us understand, to help Eve understand how to do a half pass. And then we'll try to do it with my other two Morgans too. It's an advanced movement, it's a beautiful movement, but you can see it's a very complicated movement. And that's all for today. A very helpful YouTube video on half pass for the beginner is at this link, https://www.youtube.com/watch?mark V=V4 Our next session with Eve. We are struggling to understand the half pass and all the prerequisite skills for it. We are struggling to, in baby steps, teach it to Eve, because if she understands what we're asking, she will do it for us. She's a very willing Morgan horse. What we're going to do now is kind of a big branch of the tree. We're getting the C curve that we want by going in a circle. Then Sarah is going to find a letter that she's going to aim for and ask Eve to half pass in that direction in a straight path with crossover with her front and back legs, keeping the curve and keeping the back rounded with the outside leg. Now we totally expect that to be too big of a step for Eve at this point. So we'll start talking about how we're going to break it down and teach some of the other prerequisite skills that are tiny baby steps, including the traverse and the shoulder in. These are all terms that Sarah and I are just learning. We're learning by books and by videos. We don't have a lot of classical dressage background, but we're doing Western dressage here. That doesn't mean it isn't essential to know the prerequisites. It just means that we're learning what we have to learn in order to do what we want to do to keep our horses ranch versatile and willing to work with us as our partners. Now let's just watch Sarah. Eve might get stressed. She might bring her head up. Depends what Sarah tries to ask of her that she doesn't understand, because Eve most definitely wants to understand. And I'm going to stay out of the way. I'm still recuperating from my left hip replacement, so I can't take a chance that I'm going to be knocked around by my livestock. And yet I want to be in here. I want to see what I can see and tell you what I'm seeing. And then we're going to interview Sarah and see what she's feeling and what she learned from her book, which she forgot to bring today, but she said she has an idea from sketches and what is written in the book, what to do next. We do have the Alreg using double reins on, which I don't think Sarah has picked up yet. I'm not sure. But if Eve does throw her head up or get stiff in her neck, those are a very dynamic tool for telling her to give us this kind of break at the pole.
She's just getting straight. I don't know.
Now, what about the idea of going in a circle and taking one of the letters on our arena, aiming for it, keeping your outside leg below her ribs so that her back stays rounded, and then we keep her in the C curve, we hope, in the direction of the half pass. She's not bending, okay, and she's not crossing over at all. She's going forward in a straight path when you ask her to, but she's not crossing over. And those are all essential pieces for the half pass. What happened when you tried to use your outside leg below her ribs to keep her back rounded? Did you feel like you were doing that?
I'm just trying to pull her head a little bit so she stays rounded.
But I mean rounded in the back so that it's not concave.
I just don't think she knows what we're asking.
Right.
I'd like to do it along a fence.
Okay. All right. Come on over here. We really wanted to just take a big chunk and then see what we got from it and then start talking about how we're going to break it up into little pieces, little branches of the learning curve. And can you tell me again now while we're here in front of the camera what you think is our next step? What baby step? What prerequisite skill do we want to work on next so that Eve understands what we ultimately want from her so she'll do the half pass?
Well, I think the reason the half pass is so difficult is because you're bent in the direction of the curve that you're going, and that's a little bit not as intuitive. And the shoulder in, I think we need to accomplish that first, which is bending in the direction of the curve. And so we're going to be bent along the fence, moving.
Going straight, not crossing over or anything with your front and back legs.
You are, slightly.
Oh, you are. That's what shoulder in means, that you're actually crossing over with your front and back.
Yeah, and then the traverse is the next step, and that's bending in towards the curve as you're moving in that direction.
Away from the fence.
But you're on the fence.
Oh, you're on the fence, okay.
Yeah, it's just the opposite of a shoulder in. Instead of bending into the curve, you're bending. So if this is our fence and we're moving along in this direction, a shoulder in, her head's going to be toward the inside of the arena, and I'm going to be using my inside leg to push her away from the pressure.
Uh-huh.
And then the traverse is going to be, if we're along this fence, her head's going to be facing the outside. Or, what do you think?
It's okay if you're confused. Let's just clarify next session.
Yeah, she's going to be bent in this direction, but she's going to be facing that fence still, and we're going to be moving in the direction of it. So instead of her head facing the inside of the arena, it's going to be the outside, but it's still like the same bend. She's going to be bent this way, and we're moving.
Okay. All right. You know what this reminds me of? I'm really quite an advocate of natural horsemanship training, and over again, the natural horsemen that I watch on RFD TV, they say you need to be able to move the body parts of your horse in the direction that you want them to be. So that's, that's classical dressage, only without all the words. Mm-hmm. Traverse and shoulder in and all that. But in Western dressage, we're kind of bringing those concepts together. We're going to pick and choose the vocabulary we're going to use. We're going to show you first with Firecrest Easter Eve and then with my other two very willing Morgans how it all comes together. Because we've got horsenalities here too. And Eve is one horsenality, Semi is another, and Sadie, Eve's daughter, even though she's Eve's daughter, is a totally different horsenality. So we are going to be showing you how we proceed to try to learn and execute Western dressage here at Shadrach Farms. And are there any closing comments? What should we do next? I always like to say, okay, next session we're going to do this little piece.
I think I want to try to do the shoulder in first.
Okay, and we'll bring the book, we'll show you the sketch or sketches in the book, and then we'll show you how we're able to execute it, if at all successfully, with Fire Crest Easter Eve. And that's all for today. Well, here we have Eve's daughter Sadie with Katie riding her. We just did a little warm-up right now. We have this book that Sarah brought, I mentioned it last time, Complete Horse Riding Manual. And I Xeroxed 2 pages out of it that Sarah marked for me, and those 2 pages are called Travers, Renverse, and Half Pass. And I Xeroxed these, copied them 2 nights ago. I was pretty tired by nighttime because I get up by dawn, and I tried to read them. And I said, whoa, this is pretty complicated. So then I tried, before I ran out of energy completely, to read it again, and I said, nope, this is too much for me to understand from print, even with this sketch. Can you zoom in on this sketch? I looked at it, I looked at the print 2-3 times. I said, this is still too confusing to me. So I said to Sarah and Katie, I said, we're going to do this 1 paragraph at a time. The next time we can all get together. Well, Sarah is due here today, and she'll probably saddle up Eve, and they'll probably go on a trail ride. But for now, we're going to, with Sadie, we're going to try to do a Travers. And this morning, in 5 minutes, I did a Google search of YouTube, or YouTube search, with the words Travers dressage. And the very first YouTube video that came up was by an English lady who says, here's how you do a Travers. It was a little more than 3 minutes. I watched it. I sent the link on to Sarah and Katie, and I said, this is what we're going to try this morning. And then while she's trying it, I'm going to read what the book said about Travers. Because we still have to do Renvers, and then, of course, we're going to put it all together, we hope, and do a half pass. So today, that's our objective with Sadie, who we haven't even tried the half pass with Sadie. And she's the youngster, and she, you know, has Eve's genes, but she's a completely different horsenality. With Sadie, we're going to try the Travers while I read a paragraph or 2 from this article. Before attempting the half pass, you need to be confident in Travers. And watch Katie in the background. Travers can be considered as the opposite of shoulder in because it involves going forward with the quarters to the inside. See diagram to the right. Can you zoom in on this tiny diagram right here? With the quarters, I wasn't even sure what they meant by quarters. It's hips, haunches. You know, I'm Western, and this is Western dressage, but this book and the video weren't directed to Western dressage. And I've done a number of shows on it. Here, we're going to do dressage type of movements and exercises, but we're going to pick and choose the ones we want to learn well. We're going to maybe use some different vocab because we're not interested in it, but we're doing, let's get the prerequisite skills. And even though I don't know if I'll ever use a half pass in ranch horse versatility, it has been one of my goals to learn with my 3 horses how to get them to do a half pass, because it's quite difficult. It looks easy when you see it done, but it's quite difficult to do. And I suggest if you've never done it with your horse, you try it so that you can appreciate how difficult it is and give respect to those who can do it. Okay, so your horse will look straight down the track so that the forehead is square to the boards. And I have vinyl rails. By boards, I think they mean the boards of the fence. There is a bend from his head to his quarters. In other words, from the head to the hips, taking the quarters to the inside. Because the bend begins at the pole, we know where the pole is, we use that word all the time. Even the forelegs are taken marginally to the inside. The bend appropriate for this movement is that of a 32-foot or 10-meter circle, which will give an angle of approximately 30 degrees. I couldn't picture what they were saying here. It says, however, you should start with a smaller angle. I still didn't understand what they were saying. Let me read another couple paragraphs, and while I'm reading it, Katie, try it, if you understand what I'm reading. Okay, all right, I'm going to walk to the center here and try to speak loudly. To begin traverse, you need a degree of collection in a walk on the short side of the arena. This is our short side, so let's do that. Then enter the corner, using the corner to get the bend you need. So you want a slight bend, you want to see the outside of her inside eyeball. When your horse's head is facing down the arena's long side, like right now, but with his quarters still on the corner, use your outside leg to hold the quarters in that position. So let's go back to the corner and try that again. That's the way we learn. We break it down. She's not even giving you a nice bend yet. See, okay, so we're going down the branches. What do you have to know in order to know how to do what you have to know in order to do a traverse and then a half pass? All right, let's stop. Maybe we've gone as far as we can today. Let's see. And Katie has your mic on, and you tell us what you're feeling, if you have anything to say about what she is and isn't doing when you're asking for it. So when your horse's head is facing down the arena's long side after you go into the corner, but while the quarters or the hips are still at the corner, use your outside leg to hold the hips in that position. I'm using the word hips, they use the word quarters. Then progress down the long side, continuing to keep the hips to the inside.
I'm not going to try that because we're not even.
We're not ready. Okay. That's all I wanted to do was know what's our next step. Take a baby step today on our way to being able to do the half pass using our baby Morgan, Sadie. And we're going to do it with her mom Eve and her sister Semi, not a real sister, a stepsister Semi. All different horsenalities, all different stages of training, all different ranch versatile skills. But we'd like them, I'd like them, to be able to do a half pass as well. So watch our Western Dressage thread in season 29. I hope we can get it by the end of season 29, which is every season is 26 shows. And that's all for today. Sonya Sokolow, the Urban Cowgirl.
See more at www.urbancowgirlchannel.com.